Hey guys, Manga 12 here. Now as the title suggests, I've recently been able to watch the anime movie adaptation of A Silent Voice, or A Shape of Voice, or Koei no Katachi in Japanese, whatever you want to call it. I have been overwhelmingly excited to watch this film ever since finishing the manga, and the second I realized I had the opportunity to do so, I stopped everything I was doing, turned off the lights, and paid full attention to the screen. Overall, it was good, but I have quite a few gripes with it, and I'm kind of disappointed with its execution. I will get into why in this video. Also, there might be spoilers later on in the video for A Silent Voice, so if you haven't read the manga or watched this movie, be cautious, but I will warn you when I get to them. Okay. This movie feels like they've taken A Silent Voice and just shaved off almost every piece of relevant plot and character development that's necessary for you to enjoy the story to its fullest, and you're left with a kind of shell of its former glory. But that being said, it's still a beautiful shell, it only has problems. Only main plot points are touched upon, even though without the previously mentioned development, those main plot points feel very out of place or rushed. It doesn't actually give you much reason to care about what's happening, and I cannot see people who have only seen this and not read the manga understanding or caring about what the story has to offer. At least not to the degree of someone that has read the manga. Every single last little plot point is shaved down to the point of it feeling like a best of A Silent Voice compilation. And all of these problems that I have with it could have been easily avoided if only they made it into a TV show instead of a movie. Giving a 7-volume long series a movie instead of a show could have never done it justice. Maybe if the series was 3 or 4 volumes long at most, it would have worked out, but in this case I don't think it worked that well. But please don't think I'm bashing on it. I understand why it had to be cut down, and I still enjoy what it had to offer. It's just, if someone has not read the manga beforehand, I think they would be rather lost, or not fully understand everyone's emotions, motives, intentions, or why they even feel those emotions in the first place, and this applies to every single character. I'm sure the watchers will understand what they're seeing, of course, like what they're seeing on the actual movie, but there is so much more to everything in the manga that is not touched upon in the anime movie at all, that they will not fully understand what this story is actually all about, if that makes sense. The manga goes into great detail of all the characters and how they all feel, how they were all affected from Shoko's appearance in their school when they were a kid, and that whole thing that happened. Whereas this, yes, it does include the other characters, but they are just not touched upon at all. The story revolves mainly around just Shoko and Shoya and Yuzuru to a degree. But it's not like that in the manga. It's about everyone's troubles, everyone's hardships. And everyone is missing a lot of their necessary development to make you care about them or understand them. I understand why it had to be cut down. It's a movie, of course, they won't be able to fit everything into 2 hours and 10 minutes, but my irritation comes not from that it's cut down to fit into a movie, it comes from the fact that they even decided to turn it into a movie in the first place, instead of just making it a TV series. Whereas tons of other series that aren't half as good as this one get their own full, at least 12 episode series. I don't think it's very fair. The movie is good, and what they have actually adapted for the most part is still very enjoyable, although it's rushed and paced quickly and missing tons of what made the story what it is. But it's still good. They did a good job of condensing a 7-volume series into 2 hours and 10 minutes. The only thing is, because they had to do that, I feel the narrative structure has just kind of fallen over. It doesn't make complete sense, the characters don't get anywhere near the amount of development they should, and it just doesn't feel complete. I would never recommend watching this before reading the manga, but if you have already read the manga, this is a good ride that gives you most of the main scenes of the story. It's just missing a lot of the other smaller scenes that made the main scenes so impactful to begin with. But of course, I know there'll be a lot of people that don't want to read the manga and they'll only watch this, and I guess that will do. If you do not intend to read the manga, just watch this, it's still kinda good. Just know that you're never actually going to fully understand this story or get any of the development that the characters get, and yeah. Now I will get a bit more specific as to what I mean relating to plot points and characters. So if you haven't read the manga, I wouldn't recommend carrying on watching this video. If you like, you could say that that first bit was a spoiler-free section, and this is now going into the spoiler section. And I'm going to go over the scenes that they took out or changed, and just give my thoughts. Okay, at the beginning of the story, Shoyu's whole friendship with those two boys at the beginning, I don't remember their names, I never really cared about either of them. Well, yeah, those two boys, like when they were hanging out, talking about what they're going to do later in life, jumping off that bridge all the time, getting punched by Shoyu's sister's ex-boyfriend, all of that stuff is completely removed. And all you get is a couple of scenes of them laughing and fighting together, which I guess is fine, as I never really cared about those characters. I mean, I did care about Shoya, but not those other kids. But I still think that that's a bit of necessary development for Shoyu at the beginning that is gone, but yeah, they had to take it out. Shoko showing up to get her hair done by Shoyu's mum, and that whole thing about having her hair cut short, and her mother wanting it to be cut short, but Shoyu's mum wanting it to be long like Shoko wants it, that's all gone. You don't really see anything of Shoko's mum until later on in the story, whereas the manga shows her a few times at the beginning of the story. I think these scenes are extremely necessary to understand why Shoko's mum is so frustrated, troubled, and doesn't like to show her emotions. So later on in the movie, when you see her slap Shoya, it feels like it was completely out of nowhere and you don't really understand why she felt like doing it. Whereas in the manga, you kinda do understand completely. Also, Shoya's mum. She is still present in the beginning, quite often, and keeps a few scenes like the one when she finds out Shoya was going to kill himself, and like burns the money and stuff. Scenes like that. Or like when she took Shoya to see Shoko's mother after the whole thing happened and then she got her earring yanked out. That's still there. But her career as a hairdresser and what she likes to do is kind of brushed over and to just a couple of brief moments, but I can kind of understand that though, because she's not really the most important character to the overall plot. Most, if not all, of the main bullying scenes at the beginning are still present, although they're very fast paced, going from scene to scene to scene to scene to scene, one after the other, without any like in-between shots or scenes of Shoya's teacher talking to him in private about the bullying, or like little scenes of dialogue between other kids to make you understand what they're feeling, or any scenes of Shoya going home to his mum and talking to her or anything. But although that bit was, the whole bullying bit was cut down, they've done it like a montage scene, which I guess was kind of necessary to fit everything they wanted to fit into it. But yeah, it's more like a montage and less like a day-to-day representation of what's happening like it is in the manga. One thing in the beginning that I noticed was different was the fight between Shoko and Shoya. In the manga, someone, I don't remember whether it was Shoya or whether it was Naoka, but someone notices that Shoko was wiping Shoya's desk in the mornings, but they don't do anything about it. And then later on, Shoya fights her outside, where, as in the movie, he notices she's wiping his desk and just picks a fight right there and then. It makes him seem even more like a dickhead than he already does in the beginning of the story in the manga. And believe me, when I was first reading it, I wanted to repeatedly punch him in the face at the beginning. Then, as he grows up and starts to regret everything that he did, again, it's very brushed over and you don't really feel or understand the pain and guilt that he was going through anywhere near as clearly. Whereas in the manga, it goes in depth of how his mind thinks of himself and other people and why he put those metaphorical crosses over everyone's faces. And because of this, when he goes to meet Shoko, it comes off to me more as very sudden and kind of creepy in this, as the bullying didn't really feel anywhere near as serious in the movie as it did in the manga. But then in the manga, him meeting Shoko feels almost necessary, as you can completely understand why he feels so strongly about making up to her and undoing his past mistakes. Then, as he meets Tomohiro, their friendship feels much less important and one-sided, as Tomohiro is still kind of obsessed with Shoya, like he is in the manga, but you don't see hardly anything of them actually being together, hanging out, and becoming good friends. Therefore, Tomohiro feels much less relevant, like just a passing side character. Just arguing with all of these random side characters who you are all of a sudden supposed to care about and understand. Okay, going back to the movie they were making. Like I said, the movie, or even the concept of making the movie, is not present whatsoever, but the reason I bring this up again is because that means that because the movie isn't there, and none of the characters' involvement in the movie is there, you never see the bit where Shoya goes back to his old school and meets his old teacher again. Which I know it wouldn't really make sense because at the beginning of the movie version, and this whole thing is just gone, and I think it's worse off for not having it. The same can be said for Shoko's grandmother's funeral and Yuzuru's love-hate relationship with her mother. What I mean by this is in the manga, Yuzuru invites Shoya into the funeral, which feels so much more emotional and meaningful by the way. And he's the one who sees Yuzuru's trouble with her life is greatly brushed over, which is the same as many of the other characters, but personally I think Yuzuru is a much more important character to the story than any of the other side characters aside from Shoko and Shoya. And development for her is almost as necessary as development for Shoko and Shoya. Plus the bit at the funeral in the manga version where Shoko's mother was thanking Shoya for being Yuzuru's friend is gone, which is sad because I thought that scene was very sweet, and it really showed how Shoko's mother is indeed human and cares about her family and friends. Also, those whole things with Shoko's mother's past, and her past relationships and troubles, with Shoko being deaf as a child and her boyfriend's parents not approving and stuff, that's all gone, and scenes of Shoko and Yuzuru growing up together was gone, which again, yeah, is just less character development. But I just thought I'd mention them. But then, a scene of Naoka at the Mew Mew Cafe is added in, where she sees them come in and is surprised that Shoya's come in, which does not happen in the manga. Also, another thing that's added into the anime version is during the fight between Naoka and Shoko's mum, after the whole suicide thing. In the manga, the fight is between them, and Yuzuru tries to stop it, but the fight's between them. They resolve it. But then, in the anime, Shoya's mother steps in and breaks it up, and then after that, Shoko starts crying and shouting that she's sorry to Shoya's mum. Which, like I said, doesn't happen in the manga version, but I'm not complaining about this bit. This makes sense. They mix together the fight, Shoya's mother accepting them all, and Shoko apologizing to Shoya's mother into one scene, which was kind of needed because so much was being cut out, whereas the manga has so much more time to have all those things. But I just think it was a good way to save time but then still be impactful. And there was also another added-in scene near the end, which I just thought was adorable, where Naoka is calling Shoko an idiot, but unintentionally does the sign language for baka, which means idiot, while she's saying idiot. And it humors Shoko, and I just thought it was adorable. Shoko giggling away to herself. The whole friendship arc thing with Naoka and Miyoko, where Miyoko idolizes her and wants to be friends with Naoka, but Naoka is just too much of a stuck-up bitch to accept her. and then they finally start to like each other near the end. That's just gone, which kind of makes sense not to have that in the movie version, because Naoka and Miyoko aren't really that relevant in the movie version. But still, it kind of made me sad. I liked that Naoka actually started to accept people and be friends with people. And then Miki's whole thing with thinking that she's cute and getting more self-confidence is gone. But then again, yeah, that makes sense not to include that, because they didn't bother including much development for Miki or any of the side characters in this version. And then Yuzuru's troubles with not going to school is cut too, along with her love for photography is skimmed down a lot. So again, character development to make you understand and care is gone. Plus, I just thought I'd mention that one of my favourite scenes in the manga is gone, where Yuzuru tells Shoyo and Tomohiro that she's a boy, so she goes into the boys' bathhouse with them and sees their genitals. But then runs away, and then afterwards breaks it to them that she's a girl, and they're really, really surprised. I loved that part in the manga. I thought it was hilarious. But then in this movie version, she just tells Shoyo out of the blue that she's not a boy, which isn't as good, but there is still a funny scene afterwards where Tomohiro was told about it, and he stands back and says that he already knew. And then when Shoya comes out of the hospital in the manga, there's this huge, it makes a huge deal out of it. Like, every character is really, really upset and grieving over him, and he waits a lot of time before showing his face to everyone, and then when he does, it's really nice. But in this version, it's just much less impactful when he comes out and then sees everyone again, because of where he's just walking around the school festival, and then he takes his hands off his ears, like to symbolize that he's accepting other people again, and then he starts crying, and that's the end. Which I've heard a lot of people do not like the ending to the manga, and they prefer this ending. But I mean, the same thing kind of happens here. It's still cut off, and you still don't see what happens afterwards. The manga, it's cut off and you still don't see what happens afterwards, but you get reassurance. It's basically guaranteed that Shoko and Shoya are going to be together, and they're probably going to move to Tokyo together. So pretty much all the stuff after that, with everyone thinking about what they're going to do with the rest of their lives and wanting to be hairdressers and stuff, that's all gone. But whatever, I'm fine with that. I kind of wanted to stop watching the movie by this point anyway, although I did enjoy it. Anyway, that about does it. At this point, I feel like I'm rambling on and repeating myself. So, bottom line, my final verdict with this movie adaptation of the Silent Voice manga: it is good. They did a good job of condensing the story into such a small time frame, and I did, overall, enjoy watching it. I just really wish that they made it into a TV show instead of a movie, and they would have never had to condense it in the first place. But because they did make it into a movie, the story is just not complete, and many important things are just left out or skimmed over. For people who have read the manga, they will get enjoyment out of just seeing a lot of the scenes and characters that they enjoyed animated with voice acting and stuff, like I did. And they can just fill in the plot holes and everything with their own knowledge of the story from already reading it. And then for someone experiencing the story for the first time, I'm sure they'll really, really enjoy it, and then afterwards read the manga and realise how much better the manga is. As I'm sure that's what I would have done if I watched it first. I would have watched it, loved it, then read the manga, and just regretted ever watching it first. Which is pretty much the same thing I've done for almost every series I've gone into. Death Note, I wish I read the manga first. Your Lie in April, I wish I read the manga first. One Punch Man, I wish I read the manga first. Dragon Ball, I wish I read the manga first. The only series that I'm actually really happy I watched the anime first is Welcome to the NHK, but that is because The anime is just not, it's not a one-for-one recreation of the manga and novel. It's very different, and therefore makes all three versions of the story really entertaining. But this is pretty much exactly the same as the manga, it's just missing tons. What is there is the same as the manga, it's just got tons of stuff taken out. But if you never intend on reading the manga in the first place, you can watch this, have a good time. Although I really wish they had more time to use wisely. I wish it was a TV show. I have very similar thoughts for this film as I do for the live-action Death Note movies. They're both very cut. After get disappointed because of the constant feeling of being unfinished or underdeveloped. Personally, I would say never ever 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 watch this film or Death Note's live action movies before the main. Whatever you want to do. This is a good version of the story to start with, but I just think it'd be much better if you didn't ruin everything that was going to happen and got the full experience of reading the manga first. And then in Death Note's case, never ever ever, just do not. The live action movies are not a good way to start the series. They're good entertainment after you've already read or watched the series, but do not watch the live action movies before watching the series. That is a horrible idea. Yes, this movie does feel like a best of A Silent Voice. I didn't start this channel to be overly critical and complain, but I was genuinely kind of disappointed with this adaptation, and I wanted to explain why, even if it sounds negative. Also, I know I rambled a lot and I stuttered a lot, but scripted reviews are hard. But I wanted to get this off my chest and onto video, and I'm not really the best at doing so, but I tried. So, if you're actually still here, and you actually sat through the whole thing and listened to what I had to say, instead of just skipping through the end, thank you so much for watching. See ya.